Hello and welcome to episode 17 of I'm Fine, a chat between myself, Damo, and America's most wanted disseminator of misinformation,
Keep it quiet.
Mark. There's a chat around the subjects of health, wealth, well-being, fitness, sport, conspiracy, and how to stay out of
the slammer.
Yeah. We're all work in progress, and this podcast is no exception. In short, it's a poke at our perfectly imperfect lives. And if we can make just one person feel like they're not alone in all this madness, then our work here is done. Coming up, warm up and stretch. We're picking up a theme that we touched on a few episodes ago about the power of the moon.
Mm-hmm.
Not quite an apology, but it's a bit of a bookmark I wanted to
Okay.
look at. Work-life ballet, we're looking at learned optimism.
Yeah.
I say that with a raised inflection because...
Didn't know it was a thing.
No, I'm like...
Nor did I.
My interest is piqued. In Drop and Give Me 20, we're going to pick up on our other crusade, Baby Steps. I think I might just rename that now. Is that right?
Yeah, fire.
Small Steps. You're expecting something a lot more interesting.
Did you get
than
Colin from marketing to do that one?
No, Colin didn't help. No, some things don't need to be a reinvention of the wheel, do they?
No.
I was just getting rid of the word baby.
Yeah, and replace it with small. Yeah, I worked that bit out. And kept
I'm
steps
so
as it
clever,
was.
aren't I? Yeah. See? Yeah. Anyway.
You must be getting a lot more business now you set this up. When people hear what you're able to do.
You'd be surprised.
It's all about the marketing.
Yeah. How are you? All right?
Yeah, I'm good. It's been a full old day, hasn't it?
It has been
a full old
day.
But lots of good stuff.
Are we going to do that? That was really funny in the last podcast. You were like, can we just stop kidding that, we do these? And I'm like, I'm not kidding. It was really funny. It made me laugh.
I know what you're thinking. Shall we tell them?
Yeah, I am, because my head's all over the place. And we've done that thing where I imagine people who make complicated films feel.
Yeah, where they do the last scene first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like that. Let's just share the magic of
We've gone out of sequence. I don't feel comfortable about it, but...
We've recorded out of sequence today.
Yeah, so we've gone 16, 15, and now 17.
And now 17, and it's messing with my mind.
It is. But 15 was great. 15 was great.
Yeah, it's good. And now I'm in that position where I'm trying to remember where this is going to come out, and this will be 2 episodes. 15 is 2 episodes ago. And it's literally just happened.
And if we change the release date...
Oh, God, yeah. So, better not reference any days. I have a bookmark, and this is properly above my pay grade.
Mm-hmm.
But I like to think, if anything else, we're thorough, and we'll give stuff a good old go.
Yeah.
So in episode 12, we touched on horoscopes. There's a couple of things here. And Amelia, who was on our show 2 episodes ago,
who's
just left, confirmed that actually how much you do believe in horoscopes. Because she just sat there and went, we're always talking about horoscopes, me and you. And you were just kind of sitting there. And I don't know whether you realised I was picking up on that, going, got you. But episode 12, we touched on horoscopes. And if you're saying that the moon is all powerful...
Yeah.
And I quote, I listened back and got this quote.
Okay.
If it can control waves and periods and everything else.
And stuff.
Then my view, if you believe that, then why can't it affect, say, fetal development or the time of our birth into this glorious world?
Okay. I do think it can. The point I'm saying, if you go back to episode 12, is that as soon as there is human interpretation on that majestic celestial body, then we're in trouble. Why I went quiet and why Amelia looked at you as if to go like, he is Sagittarius. That's exactly what a Sagittarius would do. Mm-hmm. The stuff that we might send each other is so uncannily accurate that it just
But that is human interaction. I'm not gonna, this is not about me derailing your
No, but it doesn't make my belief happen. It's like, well, that's a bit of a coincidence that whoever wrote those got it right. But if you write enough stuff, it's going to fix, isn't it?
Sure. But I just wanted to touch on the moons and periods.
Mm-hmm.
Hence out of my comfort zone as well as
have you researched
pay grade.
It?
I have, yeah.
And?
Oh, so even the actual words menstruation and mensis come from the Latin word mensis, which means month, and relates to the Greek word mean, which means moon. Mm-hmm. So they're linked in terms of words, language.
Timescale.
I will explain the link between periods and the moon through this piece of prose. So there's a period tracking app called Clue. Are you aware of such things?
Yes.
Right. The app analysed 7.5 million cycles and found no correlation between lunar phases and the menstrual cycle of the start of the period. Dr. Wheeler, one of their data scientists looked at the data of their users and saw that period start dates fall randomly throughout the month, regardless of the lunar phase.
Mm-hmm.
The link, it seems, comes from the very similar length of the lunar and menstrual cycles. The average length of a menstrual cycle is 29 days, and the lunar cycle is 29.5 days. This, say clue, means that statistically 1 in 2 women will have their period that start either 3 days before or after the full or new moon, giving the impression that cycles are linked to lunar cycle.
Okay.
And for some, they will be.
Yeah.
There we go. Science.
Yeah. Stand corrected. Does the waves though, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. I looked at that as well. That's really interesting. How it does that on both sides. There's a bulge. There's a lunar bulge.
Mm-hmm.
You imagine the moon on one side of the Earth, almost pulling the water towards it.
Yeah.
On the opposite side, there's a centrifugal force.
Right.
Basically trying to send the water off the planet because we're spinning.
Yeah.
So those two create a bulge. So you get a high tide on both sides of the world, which is cool.
Mm-hmm. Did I ever tell you about my Moonbow?
Moonbow?
Moonbow. Yeah.
No, you haven't.
So picture the
My eyes have lit up, right?
Picture the scene.
Yeah.
North Devon, sitting in a field,
Mm-hmm.
3:00 in the morning. I'd had a little bit to drink. It was in my drinking days.
Uh-huh.
Guy to the side of me decided he was going to have a litre of vodka, so wasn't maybe the best participant in this. 2 guys either side of me had had about 12, 14 pints, so we're struggling a little bit. And the final guy was a studious member of the group who'd had a small sherry and was just like looking at us.
Is he the one wearing a monocle?
Yeah, looking at us as if we were some social experiment. And the guy with the vodka, who happened to be looking aimlessly into the sky, goes, "What the fuck's that?" And we looked up, and the guy with the monocle said, "That's a moonbow." So we just threw fruit at him because we obviously thought he was like the devil incarnate,
Yeah.
talking jibber jabber. And it was a moonbow.
Wow.
And the moonbow is a thing. And Google, don't be evil. So a moonbow, also known as a lunar rainbow or a white rainbow, is a rainbow produced by moonlight rather than direct sunlight.
Cool.
So it has a different light source. It's caused by the refraction of light in many water droplets, such as a rain shower or a waterfall, and is always positioned in the opposite part of the sky from the moon relative to the observer. It's normally too faint to be able to pick up to the receptors in human eyes, and as such, this is why it appears to be white. So obviously it has, because it's refraction through water droplets. It has, I guess, the normal rainbow colours, but it appears as white. I think it generally happens on a full moon, so we just sat there in awe. Never seen one since, never heard of one.
I don't think I've heard of it until you. I was like, Moonbow, what's a moonbow? What's a moonbow?
Yeah, and
That's
you think...
I have learnt a lot doing these things, you know.
Yeah.
My mind has been opened.
I'll show you a picture. This doesn't really help the listeners, but the bottom one is the clearer picture.
Okay, yeah.
So it's like a rainbow just. Do you know rainbows are 360 degrees?
It's been a long day. My mind is grinding to try and compute that.
Rainbows are a circle, a full circle.
Where's the rest of it? We only see half of it, quarter of it.
Don't push me. I'm just telling you the truth. It's a circle. It's 360
Is that
degrees.
a bookmark for next episode?
The people who know. So there can't be any...
That's not how we do this.
There can't be any treasure at the end of the rainbow. Yeah, another fallacy that we're fed, like the 52 weeks.
Yeah.
And how King James died. I think, was it King James who died with a red hot poker up his arse? But at A levels, we were taught he died a different way because of the connotations.
Isn't it like Henry VIII's wives as well? It's not, they didn't all, you know, there's a rhyme, isn't there, which I don't know what it is.
Divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived, something like that.
Yeah, but allegedly one died from having a horse lowered onto her.
Okay.
Have you heard that one?
No.
God, we're doing this thing where these things we kind of know, we think we know,
yeah,
but we actually have no idea about.
So Moonbow's a fact. 360 degree rainbows is a fact, but we maybe need to explain that.
And one of Henry VIII's wives died.
Crushed by a horse.
Yeah.
Okay.
She wasn't trying to get on the horse.
No.
Let's leave it there for the moment.
Yeah. I reckon Sam Harris might be quaking in his boots.
We must be nipping at his heels on the old charts, right? The other bookmark was just on our last episode about dopamine, because we chatted so long we had to kind of boot a couple of things on.
Yeah.
We both referenced the same article.
Yeah. Because
when you get into the dopamine loop and the compulsion loop, actually kind of there's loads of really interesting stuff about that. And this is really difficult because the person who this is about is a name that I'm going to really struggle at pronouncing. I feel tremendous guilt, admitted Chamath Palihapitiya,
Yeah, that's good.
former vice president of user growth at Facebook, to an audience of Stanford students. He was responding to a question about his involvement in exploiting consumer behavior. The short-term dopamine-driven feedback loops that we have created are destroying how society works, he explained. He highlighted something most of us know but rarely appreciate. Smartphones and the social media platforms they support are turning us into bona fide addicts.
Yes.
Platforms like Facebook, Snapchat, and Instagram leverage the very same neural circuitry used by slot machines and cocaine to keep us using their products as much as possible. Taking a closer look at the underlying science may give you a pause the next time you feel your pocket buzz.
The sciencey bit about this, I think, and you linking to cocaine and addictions, which we mentioned before, I think there's two elements to this. One is science in terms that how your brain works has been worked out. A lot of this social media has been based on behavioral sciences. The human brain has 4 major dopamine pathways, and 3 of these are considered the reward pathways. And so they've been shown to be dysfunctional in most cases of addiction. So the 3 pathways, one's called mesocortical, which is cognition, memory, attention, emotional behavior, and learning. We were saying this about how dopamine it's not a bad thing. It's like,
we need
what
it.
engages.
Yeah.
The second one is to do with movement and sensory stimuli. And the third one, which is the mesolimbic, and we've mentioned the limbic part of the brain before.
Yes.
This is the bit around pleasure and reward seeking behaviors, intonation, addiction, emotion, and perception. And I think that's what we're talking about here, that that part of the brain that deals with all those. And I think that's where social media has got us in their grips. And that's why the addiction word is being used, because
I don't want to keep using the word conspiracy if you don't feel we've actually kind of got to it.
I don't think we've got to a conspiracy. I think what we're talking about is the way things are. And I think it's digging deeper than the innocence that especially young people find in social media. They don't see the underlying parts. And so TikTok is just people dancing. No, it isn't. Instagram is just, this and that. I mean, the interesting thing, you mentioned Instagram before when we were talking about notifications. And I don't know if you looked in this study about a little bit deeper down. They were saying that the notification algorithms on Instagram, they sometimes withhold likes on your photos and deliver them in bursts.
Yeah, I have noticed that.
So what happens is you make your post, you're disappointed to find less responses. There isn't that engagement straight away, only to receive them in a larger bunch later on.
Yeah.
And this has been proved to prime your dopamine centers. So we talked about this anticipation.
Yeah.
So we talked about the cookies. So you post your picture. The anticipation there is that the cookies are baking.
If you got it instantly as they were given,
boom, you've gone. So they've been primed, and then they respond robustly to the sudden influx of social appraisal. So that the dopamine rush is even more than just being bits and pieces.
But the reason I've noticed that, because I've turned my notifications off and I am checking, maybe once in the morning, maybe lunchtime, and then sometimes I haven't even checked all day. I get home. And I turn on my Instagram and there's just a stack of stuff in there.
Yeah.
So it might have got to the point where they can't withhold it anymore. They're just going to push them all through. So,
and they send out negative and positive in the same way that I was hearing about some of the news feeds will send you stuff that you don't like. Right. So the guy that I was listening to,
because that equally will get you a engagement either by clicking this is not relevant to me.
Yes.
Is that at least keeping you on screen?
I guess it's that bit about love and hate aren't opposites and indifferences. If you see something goes, I'm not interested about this particular thing.
Yeah, they don't want indifference, do they?
No. But I feel strongly about this particular thing.
Back to the kind of the being in the middle. Indifference isn't a place anyone wants to be, because it's certain. No one's
social media don't want us.
No one's making any money out of indifference, are they?
No.
The old fence sitters.
Yeah, the lovers and the haters, isn't it?
So I was looking at kind of linking conspiracies to what we're kind of we talked about what happened with you, USA Today, and then we talked about the dopamine, and they're closely linked. So I did a bit more searching, and I found an article on psychiatry online. As psychiatrists, we need to be alert to the very fact that many of our patients are vulnerable to medical misinformation and conspiracy theories about critically important medical issues, from vaccines to the etiology of diseases such as SARS-CoV-2 to the availability of medications. For example, one study reported that In a nationally representative sample of the US population, 37% of respondents agreed with the statement. The Food and Drug Administration deliberately preventing the public from getting natural cures for cancer and other diseases because of pressure from drug companies.
Mm-hmm.
Only 32% disagreed with this statement.
Mm-hmm.
Belief in conspiracies and mistrust in general can discourage our patients from seeking medical treatment and adhering to it. For example, consider the prevalent belief that the emergence of HIV was a plot by the US government to kill its citizens. One study reported that 34% of respondents, in a sample that included members of both minority and non-minority groups, believed that the government created AIDS to kill people from minority groups. And more than half believed that a significant amount of information about AIDS was withheld from the public. 10% did not trust their provider to give them the best care possible. Again, like everything. I say this most podcasts, don't I?
Mm-hmm.
You can drill down, it just opens up and up and up and up and
Yeah.
up. And almost that I was starting to read and get into the level of inquisitiveness
Mm-hmm.
that you did. And I found myself kind of getting dragged into it. And that kind of raises your kind of anxiety and you kind of...
Yeah, and it might question
Because
when I'm sending something out to this guy, maybe I'll send him different stuff in future because I don't want to lose my Instagram account. And it's like, how benign does what I send have to be? Is it all mask stuff's going to get me into trouble? Or if I start saying that Bill Gates is trying to put a tracker in the vaccine, which I don't believe he is, but if that was a thing, if I start sending stuff on that, am I going to get shut down on that? Yeah.
Learned optimism.
Yeah. The reason I brought it up, two things. Number one, had little bits of feedback from a couple of people about my stuff that I was talking last week about the natural world and, looking at cormorants and looking at grass and, taking an interest. And I heard someone say, why do we keep saying about being reconnected to the natural world? And I thought it's bloody obvious why we say that, because we're so swamped in social media and urban landscapes. It's obvious why we want to. And his point, which I thought was a very good one, is that we're part of the natural world. We are animals. So it's like...
We are it.
Yeah, we'll go and look at a cow and go, look at that cow standing in the field. That's lovely. And we'll stand in the field and not view ourselves in the same way. We've created, I think... is it dissonance? I don't know if that's the right word, between us and the natural world. It's like something we go and visit and then exit from.
and look at it from, almost like it's a live museum out there.
Yeah, and we're just an animal that eats in the natural world and lives in it.
Yeah, but I think we're kind of surrounded by arguably not very natural things. I guess we talking about living organisms and,
Yeah, but if you look at...
this is our natural world, isn't it?
Yeah, but we're sitting here in your room. We've got grass that side, trees. Got two cats in the kitchen.
Yeah.
We've got the sky. Last week we talked about the sun.
Got a dead woodlouse down here, but let's not...
let's not bring it down. But the point I'm making, I guess, is that I think now that we're seeing... And this isn't everybody, but some people are viewing the natural world as an event. I'm now going to reconnect by nature by driving in my car,
it's an interesting
listening
point,
to social media, living through my phone by videoing the natural world, and then going home and watching it on my smartphone and congratulating myself on that connection. So
his point was that
we're part of it. Just live your life rather than just seeking out something that is different to you.
Stop banging on about the natural world, Matt, honestly.
Just be
No, but I think there is a real disconnect with our environment. I think there's a disconnect with our food.
Yes.
I think there's lots of disconnects. Don't get me wrong, there's plenty of people out there who would literally do anything to live their life outside, and even make sure their job and their career is revolving around being outside. There's people who just can't. It's their lifeblood, isn't it? They can't function without being outside and working outside. And this feels like a bit of my crusade about brevity. I've created a brevity neural pathway that everything that comes my way now, I'm thinking, what if we just took a bit of time there?
Yeah.
And I think I'm trying to do that in my business. We talked about it a few years ago when doing a strategy that we're running around, we're too busy to approach all these particular things we need to do. By getting things right and doing things properly and building a sustainable business, it's about building time into your business, to work on your business, to take time to think and take stock and react properly and invest your time and attention in people.
Rather than yet another meeting.
Just deliver, meeting, bang, 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 box tick, just go, right, let's just take a breather. So I think coming back to you going away for a week and connect, I think sometimes you have to. If you're not doing it every day or not doing as much as you think you ought to be, then I think it's about taking time.
But you can do it every day. That's the point, I guess. Is that
I could go and sit on the bench in the garden, just
that's as natural as
listen.
Yeah.
Yeah. But am I...
It's not crashing waves and great big seascapes.
No, it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to
But
be.
even I don't take the time to, I guess the stuff that's on your doorstep, you often don't, because you think, oh, the bench is there. Sit, catch this nice bit of sun, that bench, and I look at it and go, I can do that tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it never comes, and then I don't do it.
Yeah.
So I think we have to purposely reconnect.
Yeah.
Even if you think we're in it.
Yeah,
So his point about being in it, I get that. Yeah, I can pick up the cat and, cuddle it. And that's my connection with another living organism. But I think taking the time to be in that environment, even just how you connect with it is up to the individual.
But you've got to make some sort of effort. You can't. Yeah. It's there already. We're already in it. But it's not. It doesn't have to be a grand gesture.
Yeah,
it's
not. If you want to hug a tree, brilliant.
Yeah,
it's not about that.
No, it isn't. But it's the. There was a story on the news about a young lad in Devon who has camped out in his back garden for 200 nights. Have you heard that?
No.
And I thought this was quite an inspiring story. His neighbour came round. His neighbour was 74. He died when he was 74. So I think this was a little bit time before he died. He died of cancer. And he came round to the lad. I think they had quite a good relationship, and gave him a tent. And he said, I want you to have this tent on one condition. And the condition was that you have adventures in it.
Right.
And then the guy died, the older guy, and there was meant to be some fundraising by the local cancer charity, but because of COVID, it was postponed.
Oh.
So this young lad decided his adventure would be to sleep in the tent in his back garden and raise money by doing so.
Okay.
So not a connection to nature per se.
Yeah.
But he's been there for 200 nights and he's going to make a year of it. 13-year-old lad, and he's really cute. They showed inside his tent. He had some cuddly toys and a copy of the Beano, which I thought was like, that was quite cute for a 13-year-old lad. And I think it just came through my mind yesterday. I was sort of thinking, and I'm not saying I'm going to do this, but I just thought, why wouldn't I sleep in a tent in the back garden?
Yeah.
I can't think of a reason why I wouldn't.
I mean, in during the summer, we've had some nice, do you ever think just to kind of go and sleep
under
under your tree?
You see, now you're going warm weather good, bad weather
I
bad.
am. No, I wasn't saying whether it was good or bad, but I'm just saying there's an opportunity to not even have a tent. I guess that's where my mind
But there's an
going.
opportunity for me, put up a pop-up
I just
tent.
immediately think shiver your ass off in a tent. That might be what you need.
But shivering's a thing,
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. No. I just don't want to shiver right now, But yeah, it's a good point.
But it just goes through my mind, and I thought, maybe I'll just do that. Maybe I'll just spend the night in a tent in the garden, just because I don't have to spend every night of my existence in a house.
And, it is on that point, it is the reconnection can be feeling uncomfortable.
Yes.
At least you're, properly connecting.
Yeah.
Because most of our camping trips we've done, the ones we talk about still, are the ones where it's 40-mile-an-hour winds and the tent poles are snapping.
Yes.
We don't talk about the pleasant ones we had when nothing happened.
Yeah.
We talk about just being squashed in it raining and packing up by 5 o'clock in the morning and going home. So learned optimism.
So the learned optimist, to me, there's a little bit of a link, because when I realized, or when I found out this was a thing, it made me optimistic. But I think my link with the natural world is around that does carry a natural optimism. I'm just feeding back from a couple of podcasts ago when I was away and doing that and spending more time, like you're saying, to think and look. I could feel more optimistic. I felt better, basically. So I looked this up from a podcast I was listening to. I got a feeling it might have been Sam Harris, but I'm not sure. But the guy who was talking about this is someone called Michael Gervais. And I found him really, really interesting as a speaker. And what he was saying is that learned optimism is what they call a positive psychology concept. And he's mentioning it's the opposite of learned helplessness, which I'll maybe touch upon.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay, you've heard?
No, I haven't. It's just
okay. So learned helplessness.
Interested.
Learned helplessness is a phenomenon whereby individuals believe they're incapable of changing their circumstances after repeatedly experiencing a stressful event. And when they were going into, there's a guy called Siegelman who seems to be key on this learned optimism. Michael Gervais was just talking about him, and he was saying that the basis of optimism overall doesn't lie in positive phrases or images of victory. And I think that comes back to a little bit about one of the things we've talked about in training, when I sometimes say to you, I'm not here to motivate you. I'm here to provide a framework for you to train. Your motivation should be that you want to get stronger, you want to be fitter, you want to live longer. My motivation is I will encourage you, but it isn't these sort of false positives of you're looking good, keep going, You know,
never get a compliment.
Yeah, that's why you don't get them. But it's that bit around, it isn't just about here's some positive phrases or images of victory, but it's the way you think about causes. So what they were saying, and this reminded me of the analogy of the two people that I mentioned a few podcasts ago standing out in the rain when the fire alarm went off. Life inflicts the same setbacks and tragedies on the optimist as on the pessimist, but the optimist weathers them better. And you look at it in simplistic terms, it's like, yeah, it's the same thing. It's your perception or how you react to it. So what Siegelman says is that it may be down to how we process the information, our selective intention. And he used the glass half full or half empty. And it's where your focus lies. If you have a glass that is filled halfway with water, it's the same whether you're an optimist or a pessimist.
Yeah.
But it also depends on your focus at that time. So he said, assuming you're thirsty, the presence of water in the glass is a positive environmental cue. Yeah. So you pay more attention to its presence than the absence. I'm thirsty, but there's water in that glass. You disregard the fact that half the glass is not filled. You filter out the cues that don't correspond with your positive outlook. So you don't go, I wish there was more water. You go, I'm thirsty. This is good because there's water, and that will help my thirst.
Yeah.
Eye tracking studies suggest that pessimists do the opposite. They spend more time looking at the unpleasant cues than optimistic people do. But he was saying around the way that people will also talk in terms of optimism. So one of the things was, I mentioned a few podcasts ago how I'd run with a headwind and been pessimistic that I could have done better because it wasn't that windy. And then I ran with a tailwind and I was pessimistic because I could have run better instead of going, do you remember? It was like...
Yeah, no, I do. I was just thinking about that. It's actually, sorry, I was looking like, no, only because I was thinking, is it actually pessimistic?
I think it's pessimistic because I ran a good time and I'm going, yeah, that's because of the wind. I don't actually know what effect the wind had. It had some, but it might have been a good time without the wind.
Yeah.
So rather than me going, I've run 13.2, that's a decent time. There was a bit of wind, but I've still run 13.2.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, the wind didn't necessarily give me a second worth of support. Yeah. But he was saying, someone said, I didn't beat my personal best because I have the flu, but I'll swim faster when I'm well. So that's my bit that I should have, from an optimistic point, I should have said.
You shouldn't have done anything.
Sorry?
It's not about what you should have done.
No, okay.
So I'm just picking up on the word should.
Quite right. To have a more optimistic outlook, I could have said, I ran 13.2 with a tailwind, but I think I could probably match that time pretty closely, even if there'd been less wind. I was staring at the wind in the same way that pessimists would stare at the empty glass of glass and going, I only achieved that because of that wind.
But also, going back on the should comment, you feel that you should be optimistic. You kind of, by that statement, you're inferring to me that you shouldn't be pessimistic. And the right outlook, not the wrong outlook, would have been to be more positive, more optimistic in that
100%,
situation.
Because if
do you subscribe to that? I mean, you just where you're at, right?
Yeah, but life inflicts
for all sorts of
the
reasons.
Same setbacks and tragedies as the optimist on the pessimist. I think just in terms of things like...
But do you feel there's a pressure to go and rewrite that? If you can go do that again, would you run the optimist program?
Yes, this is what I'm going to do.
Or would you just go, oh, just let that play again? And
well, what they're saying about the learned optimism, and that they, in a sentence,
is it about creating the learned bit? Is that about creating a good habit?
So it's the bit about by nature I'm an optimistic person. No, it's the way that you might have a tendency. There might be a genetic thing. There might be a nurture thing. But the fact that it can be learned, and they use the thing with calmness, and you would have heard in 15 my daughter alluding to me having a somewhat checkered past, and I fired off the handle. I got in fights. I would never back off from anybody. I always thought I was right. And in the same way that I've taught myself mindfulness and calm and changed my outlook, the same thing. And he actually said this around, being calm can be a learned thing, and so can optimism. And it does make sense to be optimistic rather than pessimistic because of, just all the positivity that's going to be coming through your body. We've been talking about all the things like cortisol and adrenaline and stuff that runs through. If you're standing in the rain going, this reminds me of a lovely time, and you've been optimistic, sure. But you're still having the rain, whether you're optimistic or pessimistic. I think that's what I'm saying. So what I'm going to try and do is when I report stuff, especially on this podcast, is to do it with that sense of optimism, to actually go, I went over to Wales, I ran 13.2, I wasn't injured, I did really well. There was a bit of a wind.
Yeah.
Not the headline was, there was a bit of a wind, so everything else is negated.
Yeah, I guess the big point here is you want to improve, you want to find success. And that's where the optimism bit comes, isn't it? That it's hopeful of success.
Yeah.
I think it's probably actually probably the definition. But
I think it's specific with my running. The next time I run 100 meters and I'm in the blocks, my thought might be, the only way you can run 13.2 is with a load of wind behind you, and there's no wind behind you, so you're not going to run 13.2.
Yeah.
An optimistic way of saying, you run 13.2, you don't know what factor that wind was. Maybe it pushed you along a bit. Who knows? No one knows the science of the wind on that day. No one's going to be able to go.
Is it just your mindset, your headspace?
And I've run 13.2. Maybe I'd run that without the wind.
Yeah.
Maybe the wind
or if
wasn't
you
a
had a
factor.
more optimistic outlook on that day, for whatever, about everything in general, would you have slept better? Would you have eaten better? Would you have prepared better?
Yeah.
Would you just got that extra 5-6%?
And it's setting up, whether we call it neural pathways or just general positivity.
I understand. I'm not, I was just trying to understand the kind of karma comes to mind. I mean, I spent years of my younger life thinking karma was, and I think there was even a TV show around My Name is Earl, I think.
Yeah, I know this. Yeah.
So he did something good. So the setup was he did something bad.
Yeah.
And bad things happened to him, which technically isn't what karma is about. There's an element to that. But if you're living a positive, optimistic life, then of course you are going to encourage optimistic, hopeful things to happen to you.
And people will react to you that way as well.
So if you surround yourself with, if you want to be optimistic, you surround yourself with optimistic people.
Yeah.
Everything will just kind of compound and move on, won't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think anyone's going to deny that. If you surround yourself with a bunch of miserable buggers, you know what the outcome's going to be.
And also,
I get that.
You don't want people won't want to be surrounding you if you are a pessimist.
Yeah.
People don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
So there is that bit about the community around you. It's about, and it isn't this falseness. It isn't these sound bites of like, give it 110%. It's more than that, but it's actually looking. And I think that analogy, and everyone's heard the analogy, half full or half empty. And I think just explaining in that way of, if you're thirsty, you see the water as an optimist, and a pessimist, you concentrate on the empty bit.
Yeah.
And it's a simple analogy, but we don't need to go any deeper than that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try. I've worked with the mindfulness. I'm just starting next week. I start this 8-week course next.
Are you able to, or will you be able to do a bit of a check-in and a report? If it's an 8-week over the next few episodes, will you be able to do a little?
Yeah, and there's daily
mindfulness
meditation.
Corner.
It's a lot of input. Yeah, definitely. It'd be interesting to see how that goes. Episode
14, and I put this on Instagram as well. I put that quote about our thoughts create the context which determines our feelings.
Nice photo as well.
Exactly what we're talking about now.
Yeah, totally.
Made me think about my optimism or lack thereof, and I've talked about this before in terms of my default. I think my default on this is arguably paradoxical. So my personal bar is incredibly high, and my bar of others and external forces and factors is incredibly low. And I think that comes from a habit that I've created where I know I can always improve and better myself. And at the same time, I've been let down by others who I feel don't share the same outlook.
So are you saying that you don't expect so much from others?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's an optimism arguably about myself, and there's a pessimism of others.
Of being let down.
Yeah. But now I'm super aware of this. I can see how unreasonable this is on myself and others. And I wasn't aware of what it was doing to me, and I was making other people feel.
Yeah.
Arguably, an optimistic view and trust in my own abilities are rubbing up against a pessimistic view and trust in others.
Yeah.
So it's not just my own outlook, it's actually kind of my trust and opinion of those.
But I've done something
so
similar.
optimism can get into trust.
I was thinking of two examples. One was, you gave me an example of someone who took some words I'd said about lockdown and taken that and going, that was an opportunity, and I am going to, correct, and is responding by exercising more and getting the positives from that. But I remember when I said it was a little bit of a judgment going, you've got all this time.
And you're telling me you haven't.
I've done it. So my bar is high. I'm going to train 6 times a week.
Yeah, and you come here and give me all the excuses why you can't. And
so you're giving me the excuses why you can't, and it's like, but I don't know your life, and I'm not living your life, and it's a very hard thing. So my expectations And I was just thinking of a client that I've had sort of come in and out with training with me. And a little while ago, she was in tears. My drive wasn't reflected in her. It was like, just do this, just become totally committed, instead of me thinking she could have 101 things going on in her life that I don't know about. And I don't have any right to expect her to meet my obsessional, But really interesting that she's come back and is training with me now and is having fantastic results, doing really, really well, in a great place, overcoming a lot of barriers and hurdles, but is saying a lot of, not that the cause for her success is down to me, but saying that her relationship with me is very much different because of my calmness. So I'm getting better results and being less shouty and more encouraging, more of an empath, which is an interesting thing. In terms of that someone has actually reacted and been able to go away and take. I think what she's got from me has been an optimism that she can do it, rather than me shouting and going.
But
the undercurrent being, I don't think you can do this because you're not me.
So the environment you've kind of created, which includes the way you are and everything, everything else, the atmosphere, she's responded to it. But you could argue that someone might not respond to that.
No.
And some of your clients, I'd imagine, do need a bit of a
like the one, and she knows who she is. Who went, you become too bloody zen. Kick me up the arse.
And some people,
it is that balance, isn't it?
My optimism or pessimism is actually based on my kind of my bar of expectancy.
In
myself and others.
I understand that.
Which I kind of hadn't realised. I felt it, but hadn't realised until I picked it apart.
So you set the bar low so you don't get disappointed.
There's definitely an element of that. But I can't do that with myself.
No, yours gets higher and higher.
It's easy to do it for other people.
And
it's definitely a self-preservation bit. A massive self-preservation bit. I don't want to be let down by, and that's not that anybody else's fault but mine. That's not anyone else's responsibility but mine, and no one should feel. But anyone that, like me, who does create that, there's an unknowing side effect of that, which is actually negativity for other people, which I wasn't aware of. Of people feeling like they have to match my bar, or like that, they can't ever achieve that, and I'll be disappointed. Or there's a whole wealth of things in that until you realise. I guess that's just what the kind of optimism, the word learned, made me think about the habits I've created around optimism and pessimism. Which I hadn't thought about before. I hadn't thought about I knew about the bar, but I hadn't thought about it in terms of.
Or maybe not thinking about
outlook.
It can be changed.
It's actually a really good thing to have a really low bar. I would argue that's not pessimistic. I would argue that's incredibly realistic, and it gives you a bit more opportunity to bring in optimism in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
That literally formed as it came out my mouth.
Yeah. But it doesn't quite work, because you do have a sense of pessimism that people aren't going to reach a certain standard. So you are pessimistic. You're expecting the worst as a self-protective factor. It's like, I hope this person gets that paper to me by 4:00, but I think it'll probably be after the weekend. And it comes on Monday and you'll go, all right, that's what I expected. So there is a sense of pessimism, I think, in protecting yourself so that you don't get disappointed. You might get the elation if you get it Friday afternoon at 4:00 and go.
I think it's probably not letting optimism or pessimism become a passive thing.
Or a
both have their place.
A static thing. Because I was just thinking, one of the things is, when people are doing explanations, I was just thinking this as we're talking, the majority of people will go, well, I'm naturally optimistic. You might be naturally, but that doesn't mean it's set in stone. Either way. So you can have the learned helplessness, and it depends on how your life's going. But I think that's the factor. We need to take control of certain elements if it's causing us concern, in the same way we take control of addiction or something else. I want to be more optimistic about my future. So I'm gonna work on it.
So drop and give me 20 small steps. We talked about in 15 with the media about outcomes. Don't take on the whole thing, the gym as a concept. Just go, what do you want to achieve out of it? Even if that's one little thing, go and do that at the gym.
And that conversation came out differently. The little thing with Amelia that we sort of took away was, okay, get some help, get some structure, get some framework, instead of thinking of the gym as this sort of cesspit of sexism. But,
absolutely.
So on the small steps, I will check with my two clients that they're happy with this. I'm 100% sure they will be. But this could be a bit of a
short episode.
short episode if they won't. I know they will be. I'm just, and it's totally anonymous, and they know who they are, and I know they won't mind. So I have a WhatsApp group with 2 people, and the WhatsApp group used to be called.
Just the walking one.
This is the
You've already
walking one.
mentioned them.
Yeah,
They've gone out. It's too late for that.
That's
Horse has
true.
bolted.
Yeah.
We've had no letters of complaints.
No.
So.
And I've seen them since. So it was called 10,000 times 75, the WhatsApp group. So I'm just going to show you now. This is the WhatsApp group now. So it's now called Together.
Okay. This is what kicked the small step stuff off, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's like right now what we can still do. So we can't. We don't have the time to do that big thing anymore, but we can do something.
Yeah, and we're going to do it together.
And we're missing the accountability bit.
Yeah.
Which is where it kicked off.
And so that's the little logo for the group.
What, got a logo?
Together. Got a logo as well. Stronger Together.
Who did that? Don't tell me you just ripped that off.
Just ripped that off.
I got all protective. I got all.
Yeah. How
I do
very
logos.
dare you?
It's actually quite good.
Thank you.
To be fair.
One of the people responded. In fact, I think they both responded. One responded particularly going, just love the logo. And so straight away, created a positive environment. We got a new logo, we got a new name, we got new accountability. So what I wanted to share was, in terms of small steps, I shared my steps to give them an indication of what my targets are for the remainder of 2020. So number 1 was survive. Number 2 was 4 times 45-minute gym sessions. I know when it gets to winter months, the idea of going hour and a quarter in a cold garage isn't that easy by yourself. By setting it at 45 minutes, my small step is I can do 45 minutes, or if I do 35, it's close enough. But 35 isn't close enough to an hour and a quarter, but it is to 45. It'll also make me be more targeted and do the planning that we just talked about. 2 times 80-minute track sessions. The opposite applies there. I love being at the track. I was there a bit longer than 80 minutes today. I did a longer warm-up. I did some help with some equipment, blah, blah, blah. But I wanted to make sure that I just I wanted to utilize my time well at the track. 1 hour of yoga per week. The small steps there is not going to do 3 sessions. I will get an hour together. It can be lots of 10-minute ones. To meditate daily and to have 1.5 litres of water. Those are my targets.
Wow.
And
do you put up your targets and share them? Because the accountability buddy thing is actually quite a big thing.
Yeah.
You've all set your own targets and you're going to do your best to encourage each other to stick to those.
So I was saying to you about lots of ticks, TICKS, not ticks as on
parasites.
Yeah, not parasites. That's a bad group, the parasite group. So I just put hydration done, training session, track was a bit short. I didn't quite do the 80 minutes. No explanation. And someone replied straight away, well done, bike ride done, 100 litres of water. I think that might have been a typo.
God, they're still typing.
And
they're drowning.
And stretching. So I may be lying about the water. And then the third member, we'd asked to share the targets, didn't get the targets out.
Okay.
And
what do you mean didn't share them?
Hadn't done them.
Okay, fine.
And then said, can we do them when I see you tomorrow? Which is fine. But a little bit of the old me would have gone, it's 2 minutes, write your fucking targets. It's not that hard. Do you know what I mean?
You were horrid.
Yeah, that's the
I don't remember the old you.
That's the old me.
Was this before me?
No, the beginning of you are still pretty hard. So the person said, can I share it with you? And I said, yeah. The following day, one of the people wrote, epic fail today. I can only tick off water and stretching. That isn't going to make me feel positive. And I went, it's 2 ticks.
Yeah.
You've done your water, brilliant. You've done your stretching, brilliant. It's not being glib, but these are positive things.
Yeah.
You've said you'll do something. You've drunk 1.5 litres. And the reply was, which I think was lovely, yes, but they are tiny ticks. And it's like, that's fine. But isn't that us? Isn't that us as human beings?
It is,
They're not
it
big
absolutely.
Ticks. And anyway, the other person came back and said, yes, they're still ticks. And that accountability and hearing 2 people go, well done, and it isn't just false. So this third person sat down with me. We had a long discussion, we had a long talk, and the targets were met together. First target is at least half an hour fresh air, not your typical PT target.
No.
Half an hour fresh air. Doesn't matter how you get it, sitting, walking, running, cycling. Fresh air. Hydration, 1.5 litres a day, at least 1 healthy meal a day, and to take vitamins.
Okay.
So a lot more about self-care and compassion, the small steps, and then putting 2 times 10,000 steps. I'm going to go for 2. All good, all achievable, some positive vibes were sent between the team, blah, 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 blah. The first person said, killer gym session, water done, stretches, and a crunchy.
Bar
And a crunchy
right,
bar.
not
So a touch of,
not crunch.
one crunch, yeah. So a bit of irony. I've got my tiny ticks, but none of us is perfect. It's Friday, I've had a crunchy.
I'm smashing a chocolate bar.
Yeah.
Have it.
So we had a little bit of accountability, a little bit about sharing. And I sent something to them both. And I said, I've just walked 3,000 steps solely so I could tell you both. And I did. I was sitting down and I was thinking, I want some good news. I want two people to know that I've gone out because of them. And anyway, the client who'd sat down with me and had the more gentle target said, water, tick, meal, tick, vitamin ticks. But I didn't get out for half an hour. I can't believe I'm finding that a challenge.
Well, it probably feels like the most sounds like and feels like the most simple thing to do.
And this is that she said after all those 10K step days. So this is the person that had done 10,000 steps a day for 98 days and the half hour fresh air. And that's because, pure and simple, life gets in the way. That's the thing that we've been saying all along when we were talking about the mental health, like get your sleep, eat 3 meals, blah, 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 blah. Life gets in the way. And sometimes getting half an hour of fresh air is beyond you. But we go again. We have the accountability, and I know when I pick them up today, she'll be gone. I've been out. I've done my half hour. But I thought that was really insightful for someone who'd sat down, was dedicated on their targets, and life was so full or difficult or whatever, that being outside for half an hour was an impossible task. And I wonder what the effect of that is on that person's mind, going, I couldn't even be in fresh air for half an hour. Maybe I need to look at finding a way to make that possible.
What's your overriding thought saying that, or feeling? What's your overriding feeling, them saying that?
My overriding thought in the past would have been to look at things that people are doing that are defined as negative. So I would look at a client and go, you're drinking beer 5 nights a week. We need to cut that down to 3. The approach I'm taking now, and part of this has been because of COVID, I think, is that people are fragile. Full stop. People are fragile.
Yeah.
Things like, I know with my dad's funeral, only having 30 people, I'm knowing I've got people who've had friends or family die, and the effect of not being able to invite relatives to a funeral is, that's not what life's about. That's not what community's about. So my emphasis now is to say to somebody, not don't drink beer 5 times a week, drink it 3, is to go, forget the beer at the moment. Let's get some positives. Your tick is sitting in your garden, going for a walk for half an hour. And we'll let the other stuff take care of itself. And maybe when you do then reconnect with nature and you go and stare at a cormorant, you don't want to come back and have a beer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's those small ticks, just have a succession of positives, drinking, reconnecting, getting fresh air, moving. Rather than going, you've got to do 100 kilogram bench press for 10 and eat perfect food every day, because that isn't going to happen. And I think we're under too much pressure from everyone to have a perfect life. And I don't know anyone who has.
No wonder people feel overwhelmed. And what I was getting from that is, God, aren't we hard on ourselves?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sitting here, fully guilty of the same things, just punishing yourself for things you have or haven't done. You're like, for me, for someone who I'm going, don't beat yourself up.
It's also interesting that those targets linking back to the natural world are what people are about. It's about fresh air, drinking, moving. That's what animals do. Yeah.
Do you find that people probably kick themselves more about those things, the things that almost are given, almost like breathing, fresh air? It's that.
I don't think people see it as a big enough.
Is it not
tick.
necessarily the thing they're doing? It's just, is it the ones that feel like they're least effort to do? They get annoyed if they don't do them. Or is it could it be anything on that list?
But it's hard to get the affirmation when you've done your 10K run and you put it on Facebook and it's like, well done, hun. For some people, getting the half hour of fresh air is more important than doing a 10K run because of where they're at. And I think you don't get the affirmation because it's just, well, big whoop, you've gone outside. But for individuals, and in this time, doing that, I think is vital. And it's just keeping it simple. Just do the things that keep us alive and keep us strong. Don't try and change the world at the moment. And that isn't saying don't be aspirational, and there'll be other people I'm training, but I think the nature of it at the moment is maintenance. I think it's like, don't try and, the world at the moment isn't the place to start going, right, I'm now going to run a marathon every day for 30 days. It isn't the right time.
So you're saying a tick, no matter how big, is really important right now, aren't you, in terms of the takeaway from that? For everything, physical and mental.
Yeah.
Cool. Like. You mentioned, I think you mentioned cormorant a couple of times.
Yeah.
Do you remember we launched a spin-off competition? The first one to send the word cormorant in.
Okay, yeah, I had forgotten, but you reminded me.
We had an avid listener, I think, contact us on all our social channels with the word cormorant.
Yeah.
So we'll have to honour that.
Okay. Of course we'll honour it.
Yeah.
Mystery prize though, or?
Yeah, we didn't actually specify what the prize was going to be, thankfully.
do we know the listener?
Yeah, we do know the listener. Yeah. So David will send you a prize.
Yeah.
He'll be delighted.
Fitting. Prizes are fun, whatever it is.
And we're still running the other one.
Someone today mentioned that they were entering the other one today.
Oh, right.
But asked if they could have a different prize.
What is wrong with people?
Well, I said yes. Just enter.
Come on. You didn't run that past me.
The other prize is cheaper.
You can just send them your granola then and be done with. You might as well enter. You said you wanted to. You might as well. And I said you couldn't, but yeah, forget it. When you enter.
So what? I give myself my own granola.
Yeah, you do anyway.
Yeah.
You win every day.
Yeah, every day's a win for a learned optimist.
Yeah.
Just off camera, off mic. Just now, you said these seem to have been quite chilled. Not a good thing, not a bad thing. Just a thing.
Just a thing. I think it's been quite nice. It's been different. It's
been different, but a couple of people have come back on saying about the rapport and the giggles. So maybe...
What lack thereof?
No, that there are some. Or there is some rapport.
Yeah.
But
we can't be on all the time, can we? We can't...
No, but
we can't be bang, 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 bang. Who wants that anyway, eh?
Yeah, but we haven't come up with like Benny King Canute and things like that. Those gems.
We're talking about that with all the little things that we've missed because we've either talked over each other or been too busy, wallowing in our own congratulations to kind of listen to the other person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Amelia just made that off air as well, didn't she? Said that I asked you how you were and then managed to start talking before you even started your response.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
That's it for this episode. Well done for getting this far and thanks for listening. All links and references will be in our show notes. Please make sure you subscribe to us via your favourite podcasting app. And if you're enjoying this pod, then please do spread the love and tell a friend because that'd be really good.
Be great.
Give us a follow on Instagram at I'mFinecast and send your feedback and questions via our email to imfinecast@gmail.com. In the next episode, this kind of picks up from kind of small steps, but action. There's been a few things that have been building up to what drives us to take action and looking at practical things we can do because we're all about practical things along the lines of, I said, the small steps and how to get things done.
Yeah.
And hopefully following on from that episode, we'll be looking at pain. We've got something lined up for that.
Yeah.
But that's it for now, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Enjoyed it. Thank you.
See ya.
Bye-bye.